Thanks.
Everybody say hi to Christina. Everybody,
Hello.
Shout out in the chat. Christina is amazing. Just wanted to start out by saying thank you for everything. The people here on Instagram don't really know just how grateful I am to you and to Dr. Gainsford and to everybody that's helped me. But like one of the things I've been doing with the Instagram like interviews is bringing in people that have really helped me. And obviously I studied with Christina for 6 months and she's a beast. So super excited for this. Great teacher, great pianist, great human being. And people are super excited. So everybody say what's good to Christina in the chat.
Hello.
Christina, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. And thank you for all those kind words. And part of it is just your hard work, you know. You can have a really good mentor, but if you're not putting in the work, there won't be any improvement. So it's a combination of you and me, that relationship. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, like 80% you though, but 20% me. I'm just making sure, like the last time I recorded this, I'm just making sure because I have a computer recording. All this technology is like confusing my brain. So
I didn't even know you could record on your computer. So that's fancy.
if you use I don't know, it's like different software. It depends on if you have a Mac or a PC. Like I think you can do with either probably. But yeah, so let's get down to business. I wanted to ask you many questions about piano playing and life in general. But so, how does it feel like? Does it feel any different now to be done with your? Hi, Pedro. Does it feel any different now to be done with your doctorate?
Yeah, it does feel a little different. I think a lot of our mindset while we're in school, we're always just like trying to finish that next thing to get to the finish line and get our degree. And we're always just trying to, on the surface, it looks like we're trying to please someone like our teacher or trying to prove something to someone. And once you're done with school, you realize that's not real life. And you're constantly trying to search for like, what is your purpose now? Now that predictable road of like finding the next degree or like graduating and going to next step of education. Now you don't have that predictable plan. And so much is about self-discovery and depending on the person. I think for me personally, I've been trying to figure out what is my purpose. I love teaching, and I think that's going to be my primary concern. And I think about it all the time. But now I don't have to prepare for a recital because for a degree. So now I have to figure out like what am I going to do with this music? Am I going to study the same type of music that was expected of me? So there's a lot of questions that you're dealing with once you're out in the real world. And I'm very fortunate to have an income right now, and that might not be the case for everyone, especially during this time. So, but I think it's slightly different. And maybe there's also, I think Professor Reed Gainsford was really good about this, where he said, right from grad school, you have to treat yourself as a professional. So I did have like this kind of in-between time where I'm like, okay, how am I going to build myself as a professional rather than a student? And if you're like thinking about that all the time, it actually helps that transition into the real world.
Yeah, that's so. That confirms like a lot of the things that I've been learning. I know we talked about that. I wanted to ask you, so did you start playing at a young age, or like how did that come up?
Yeah, I started when I was around 5. I'm sorry, 5. The first time my mom brought me to a teacher, she thought that I was too young because I just like cried. I just cried. I guess I don't remember this, but I cried. So then I tried again at 5. And then that was just because my mom was like, do you want to play piano? And I was like, yeah, sure. But while I was growing up, I feel like I didn't know that I wanted to continue to study. It was just a part of me, and it wasn't something like, okay, I'm going to do this as a career. I didn't really think of it as a possibility. But I am very grateful for the teacher I had growing up. She's very traditional in the sense of she was very good about building technique and trying to really find a large range of color, and she focused on musicality, and that I think it's kind of becoming more rare in teachers, but she was a great teacher. And then it took me a while to figure out I wanted to do this for a career, but it came. You just have to be patient and wait for that moment to come to you sometimes. Sometimes it takes longer to figure out what you want to do.
What was that? Yeah. What was that moment and that process like for you where you really kicked it into gear?
I think some of it was desperation. This junior year of undergrad, I was trying to decide. So I studied science at the same time as music in my undergrad. And junior year, I had to decide if I was going to do pharmacy, because you have to take a test. It's a PCAT, and you have to study. So I was like, okay, do I want to study for this? But at the same time, I actually had a junior recital, and I was practicing, either it was a dress rehearsal or something, and it was on a big stage. The lights, the moment was right. I was playing Scriabin's Second Sonata, and it was beautiful. And I was like, okay, I have to do this. This is something that you can't feel in a science field. You can't. You don't have to face the same kind of fears, and you don't have to face yourself in the same way as if you were doing science. And I still think about it a lot. But when you're doing art, any kind of performing arts or any kind of physical art, I think you think about yourself in different ways. You're forced to. Yeah.
What would you say is the difference, if you could sort of quantify it, or you know what I mean, put it into words? It's hard to do that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's very abstract, because people in any field, they can always try to be self-aware or think about themselves. And I guess with music, if you want to open yourself up and become vulnerable to the music and be vulnerable to sharing that with other people, you have to be okay with yourself. And not a lot of us are at that position. Right now, I'm still working on that, being okay with myself.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. And to become a really good musician or an artist, that's what you have to do. You have to delve into yourself. How are you going to share what you think if you don't know what you think? And that's what I'm trying to battle with, I guess. And it might be just like a constant struggle the rest of my life. I don't know. But I think if you just start thinking about it, it makes a difference. Not only in music, but just like relationships with yourself, relationships with other people. Yeah.
Yeah, people in the chat today are really connecting with this. They said, like, your defining moment and trusting yourself as an artist. I think that resonates for a lot of people, especially for me too, because like I believe that the work is never really done in any regard, like with personal development or like playing. It's always like it's hard to go deeper with yourself and admit that there are things that are wrong with you there are things not wrong per se, but things that can be improved. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, especially for me. It's really hard to look at myself critically and be like, okay, you need to do this, So I think that really resonates. I wanted to ask you, so one of the things I want to do with these interviews is try to give as much like actionable and practical advice as we can to young people who are looking to study music and coming up. So I'm wondering if right now there's like a 16-year-old who's looking to study music, take it seriously. Let's just say this person's a pianist. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's very tricky, because sometimes when you're 16, you're a little lost with what you want. But my advice, I guess it involves several different points. You want to make sure you have the right teacher, someone who will be honest with you, someone who kind of knows the environment, so they know which teachers are a good fit for you, what kind of environment, like school environment will be good for you, where it's like challenging, but also not to the point where you're discouraged. So you need a teacher who really knows that world and knows what a good musician should be. Someone who can support you in the right way and be picky, I think. I think that's important, and also doing your own research, and you can do that by trying to go to some festivals. There's some music festivals like Brevard and EMF, so you can actually meet teachers and be surrounded by other students who are interested in music. You just have to find that community and then find teachers where you can take lessons and figure out what actually works for you and what will benefit you. And then while you're auditioning, definitely take lessons with those teachers. Because a lot of the times, I find that students are wanted by these teachers, and then they enter those studios, and then the students don't like the teachers.
Interesting.
So sometimes I think you have to be careful and really take sample lessons.
And maybe it's hard to get some a holistic perspective with only a 45-minute lesson with that professor per se.
Yeah,
maybe that
it is. It's very hard.
Yeah. No, that's.
And it's hard to know when you're young, because we're at a different stage of listening and different stage as a musician. But you can only do your best, and then it's okay if like at first it doesn't work out. There's the rest of your life to find another teacher. Transferring is always something that people do, transferring to a different school. But there's no timeline, it seems like there's a timeline. We have to get this done by this time because everyone else is doing it. But you can remind yourself, like, there's no end. Like, you can always change where you are. You have control of that.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about too recently, is like, there really is no end for the work, or like for the learning, or for the growth. Dr. Lai, my literal guy. Comment of the day from Chance.
Dr. Israel.
Yeah. Christina, I wanted to ask as well. What did I want to ask? That was so. That's
the question.
Before we keep going, I just want to make sure people can connect with you on social media and stuff like that. How can they find you on, and what platforms are you on?
So on Instagram, I recently started like a teaching tips Instagram, and Tina's Piano Tips. So I took my nickname. So if you are interested in teaching, and also if you're looking at teaching things that can help yourself with certain aspects of your playing. So if you're interested in that, I have an Instagram. And then if you want to hear my playing, I have a YouTube channel. And you can just search like Christina Lai piano, and it'll come up. But I just have my playing there. I have a personal account, but that doesn't have my piano stuff on it.
Yeah, but I really, really encourage everybody here to listen to Christina play and listen to her teach, because it's pure wisdom and all. It's so
how humbling.
I love your playing, and I love your teaching. I really do.
Thank you.
So you went to UNC, right? Undergrad?
Yeah, Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill, right? Okay, because there's multiple campi or campuses or
campi.
Let's invent that. But what made you come to FSU for a master's?
Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing when I was auditioning to my master's. That's why I have this advice on what not to do.
Yeah.
But I applied for a bunch of schools, and then FSU offered me an assistantship. And the trick was, what teacher do I study with? So I got some advice about teachers, and I ended up with a really good teacher. So I'm so lucky. I'm very fortunate that that happened. But I think now that I've been at FSU, it was good for me. The teacher I studied with, he changed the way I play. I was faced with such difficult questions, such as like, am I improving? Am I good enough for this? And he told me that you have to treat it like a tree. Like when there's a tree, you don't just watch it grow. You just feed it what it needs, like sun, water, and you just let it grow. And basically, I just had to be like, I can't worry about it or nothing will happen. You kind of just do your best. And that's what I think I gathered. That was the most important thing I got. I just have to try my best and just do what you can and remain open. And you will improve, even if it's not something tangible.
Right.
Yeah, but FSU was really good for me. And everyone was really supportive. And if you find opportunities, like you just get better. You just create those opportunities for yourself. You can't wait for things to happen.
That's so interesting too, because I think, and it's like one of the things I've been like ranting on, is that social media is a lot about the end product, right? And it shows a lot of the end product. Like it shows you the playing, but it doesn't necessarily, and I'm not saying, because like in a concert, yes, you want to go see and you want to hear somebody play well, of course. But I think it's misleading because not a lot of people see the process behind it. And that's a bit challenging because it creates a divide and a misconception. So when you're talking about you're struggling and now I listen to you play and it's like, whoa. But listening to you say, oh, I went through this too. I think that resonates with a lot of people, I think that's going to help a lot of people. So that's like one of the main reasons why I think this is like, you're dropping gems over here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So much of social media, we have to remind ourselves it's just the good things that are posted there. And we all work hard to get what we've gotten. And I think actually behind the scenes and the process, the things that people post and like master classes, those are the most interesting. Like performances are very motivating, and if you watch a bunch of master classes, sometimes that's really beneficial. But so watching performances is inspirational, and then if you listen to how people think and the interviews and all of that, that's just as interesting. But that was a good point.
Yeah, I'm just, I just think about that because it very rarely do I see somebody post something, and I'm not like trying to like attack or like hate on anybody at all, but I'm just saying very rarely where you see somebody post progress, like here's just day one of learning the piece. Like usually you're gonna see, and I do this, right? I'm gonna post some of my best playing because that's what I want to represent me, right? But I just think it's interesting to see, like, and to hear you talk about how you build stuff up from process from day one, and I think it's interesting. So, yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Christina, if you could only play 3 more pieces for the rest of your lifetime, what would you choose?
Oh, that is so tough. Yeah. You just threw me, like, slapped my face. Wow. I can't answer that.
You can pick it like as long as each piece can be as long as you want. Like, but I don't know.
So I can just like say all of Beethoven's sonatas as one piece.
If you had to pick one,
it needs to be something with such intricacy that I would need to study it all the time. Oh, the Bach. Goldberg variations. This is too hard a question. No way.
That is amazing. Amazing.
Because you need something that like challenges you for the rest of your life. If that was the question. But that question's kind of tough because there's so much good music that's being written now that's being ignored.
Yeah, so true.
And it's like, yeah, that's tough. But no one think like that. Don't think like that. Go explore all the music you can.
Don't think like grade. Not do it. Christina, I wanted to open up questions for the audience, people listening in the chat, or just go ahead and send it in. Like, there's like a little question thing. But if you have any questions for Christina, she's wise. Ask your question.
I only can speak from my experience. Does not make me wise.
Yeah, but she's wise. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, though, when people are asking questions, what are you working on now?
I'm actually working mostly on chamber music. So with my trio Nobile, we're trying to work on some things. Working on the Schumann third piano trio, Mendelssohn D minor piano trio, and then a piece by Santoro, which it's like new music. He's still alive. And then, let's see. I'm trying to like play some things I wouldn't have played in my graduate degree. Yeah. There's this Chopin prelude that's not part of the Opus 28 that I found.
Interesting.
And it's really beautiful, C-sharp minor. Yeah, so I'm working on that. It's not very technically difficult, but it's so beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah. I started working on the...
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say, there's two questions here. So I'm going to put the first one up. So, boom. You see it?
Ooh, that's fancy. I stop wasting time when I practice. I waste a lot of time when I practice. It's so difficult now that there's social media. I feel like we're constantly needing something to fill this void and avoid the difficulties of practicing. But I think it's okay to take breaks. Our brain can only stay on like a high focus mode for like 20 minutes, depending on the person you are. So I think it's okay if you're slightly distracted for a little. The danger is staying distracted for like an hour in the middle of practicing. So people, it depends on your personality. Some people, it works where you put on a timer and you let yourself be distracted for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I've heard that going on social media during breaks is actually really tiring for your brain. So if you do something like just go outside and let yourself get distracted that way, or maybe read a little in between. But I think don't be so hard on yourself if other people are practicing for like 4 hours straight without any distraction. It's okay if you take a break. It's better to reset your brain because then you come back with a fresher mindset.
Yeah.
I think you have to find some kind of technique that works for you, whether it's 1 hour in the morning and then 1 hour in the afternoon and then night, or doing a 4 hour chunk but with breaks in between. There's no set way because all of us are different. We have different personalities.
Yeah.
But I get distracted. It's normal.
Christina, next question. So, best way to deal with procrastination or keep motivated?
That's very, the thing is, some people work better when they procrastinate. I think maybe we have this idea that procrastinating is bad, which sometimes it isn't beneficial because it stresses people out. But also know that everyone does it. But knowing that, you have to find a way to change habits or make new habits. If you want a better way to think of it, make new habits. And you can try to do a little each day. and don't think that you have to get so much done. If you had a goal of doing push-ups, like 100 push-ups by a certain time, instead of doing a specific amount, like saying, okay, I'm going to do 10 each day and then add 10 for every consecutive day, you can just do as much as you can. And then over time, it just builds without you knowing it. So sometimes just doing a little bit, but not forcing yourself to do a certain amount, but just doing it, just the act of doing part of it and starting that project or homework or essay, but not having an expectation to do a specific amount. And that might work for some people, and other people who are really like type A and they like planning things, and I'm sure they don't procrastinate, actually. Maybe those people don't even procrastinate.
I'm type A and I do procrastinate. Call myself out.
Yeah, it's hard to balance everything, I think.
So one last question for Christina. Boom.
Chopin. I love Chopin. From Opus 10. I love Winter Wind. That's Opus. Is that Opus 10 or Opus 25? I get them confused sometimes. I'm not a doctor, guys. Not a real scholar.
I think it's.
But I love.
Wait, Opus 25, isn't it? Isn't that Opus
number
25?
11, number 10.
Yeah, is it? I don't even know.
But I love Winter Wind. And then from the others, I'm not very sure.
From Opus 20.
I love the harp etude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only one that's overplayed, or not really overplayed, but really famous is the Winter Wind. I played the Revolutionary a really long time ago. I've never played the Ocean. I've just sight read it, I guess. Yeah, but I do love Chopin. If you love Chopin, you should check out. Someone just said Opus 25, number 11. That's Winter Wind. I love the mazurkas. Those are things that people don't play that often.
I play Opus 33.
Yeah, you got to go into mazurkas. Everyone knows nocturnes, but they're so beautiful. There's so much music out there by Chopin. He's contributed so much. That's why I was surprised when I heard the prelude that no one ever plays. I was like,
you said it's in C sharp?
Let me find the opus number. It's C sharp minor, opus 45. That's a really beautiful prelude. Yeah.
Okay, well, Christina, thank you so much. Wish we had more time to chat, but I need to practice. Shocking.
Don't we all?
Braden Duncan needs to practice for once. Thank you, Christina. So, guys, everybody here, go listen to Christina play on YouTube. Christina Lai, piano, L-A-I, last name. And she's on Instagram at Tina's Piano Tips. And she's amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Christina. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me, Braden.
Yes. Good to talk to you. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, by the way.
Bye.
Bye.